Sustaining Creativity podcast. I'm your host, Mari Riesberg. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers. And now I've decided to share it with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. I'll be interviewing people from all backgrounds, ages, and creativity experiences to share just how creative we all are. Today, I'll be chatting with author Susy Lee. Please enjoy Susy Lee. Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity podcast. Today, I am here with Susy Lee, author, and so much more. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Mari.
I am so excited to chat with you about creativity, but before we get there, why don't you take a couple of minutes and let our listeners know a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Well, probably the thing I'm most proud of in my life is that I've raised two sons, and very exciting for me, I've just become a grandmother.
Oh, congratulations.
So I have sons, I have a heap of nephews, and now I've finally got a granddaughter. So that's exciting. That's what's going on in my life. But I've also given birth to a beautiful baby book that's won a number of international prizes. You know, you write this book like, you know, it was in me and had to get out, and I worked really hard on it. And then you have no idea if it's any good.
Sure.
So it's really, really lovely when people buy it or people write nice reviews or it wins prizes. And so that's been great. It's sort of the last 20 years of my life in education, in advocacy, in working for aid and development organizations, smooshed all into one book to help families to raise kids who care. That's the name of the book.
Raising Kids Who Care is the name of your book. Fantastic. Oh my gosh. That sounds like so much creativity and love and dedication went into, as you said, birthing this book into the world. And yeah, it's so wonderful when it's recognized by other entities as being an important part of our system right now. So congratulations.
Thank you. I feel like this is my contribution to the planet. This is, you know, the book has conversations to help families do a better job of talking about the important stuff that matters. And I feel like if I could just change the world one family at a time so that each family finds their own creative way to be contributing to the world, then that makes me excited.
I love that. That makes me excited. It makes me think, what am I doing to contribute? How do I get to, you know, take those pieces and give them back? So I love that you now have it in a book so other people can learn and participate and do the same ththings. So
I love what you're doing with this podcast, because I think that we are people who should be creating, and that if we're not creative, it's not good for us. It can be almost depressing. But we've got such a consumeristic machine, you know, from really young, the highest paid psychologists are paid by the advertising industry to make us think that if we buy more stuff or if we're distracted by Netflix or whatever, that will make us happy. But actually creating, contributing, being kind, these are the things that are really going to make us happy in life.
You are speaking my language. I love it. I can't wait to hear more, but I'm so curious. What does it mean to you to be creative?
I think as I've got older, my definition has widened. So I think when I was a child, I thought you're only creative if you could play music or if you're good at art or something like that. But now I think it's about expressing my inner thoughts or my inner passions. I think it's about making something new out of nothing. I think then it can be when I'm cooking. I look at a picture and think, oh, I'll make that up, how to make it. It could be when I'm writing. It could be when I'm having a conversation. You and I are creating right now. We're creating ideas. We're creating relationship. These are wonderful things. I really like to give talks. I feel like I'm creating ideas and changing the world.
I love it. Yeah. And I know our listeners can't see us, but we both have big smiles on our faces and using lots of hand gestures to talk about creativity. And I think that's the beauty of it as well, that it does bring a lot of life to us when we get to express our inner experience externally and share that with others. So thank you for sharing yours with me today. Now, I imagine being an author and a mother and a grandmother and working in the field that you've worked in, education, and that you come across challenges in your life. What are some of maybe the more creative challenges that you've had to face, and how do you face them?
Probably the most common and obvious one is nerves. Before I'm doing a talk, before I'm teaching a class. But there's a fine line between fear and excitement. And I read this morning that said, in order to swap over from fear to excitement, it's just a breath away. So, if we're afraid, we kind of clamp up and don't breathe, but if you can breathe through that fear, you can move through to excitement. But probably the biggest creative challenge I've ever had was when I was writing the book. I was going along okay, and then I hit this real period of procrastination. And you hear about this writer's block, blah, blah. But I had something that said, underneath procrastination is fear. And so I was thinking, what is it that I'm afraid of here? And I had to do quite a lot of reflecting. And my parents divorced when I was 8, and Dad was an alcoholic, and he lived overseas. And so I never really was too sure if my dad loved me, right? And my little self, my little 8-year-old self, decided that if I did well at school, if I really achieved and told him all the good things I'd done, that would make me lovable, right? And so I'm counseling over the decades, I've realized, that has been quite a driver for me. And what I realized was, writing a book, I'd never let myself fail. I'd always do really well because, I'm trying to prove I'm lovable. But failure, if you fail when you're writing a book, it's a very public failure. Right? So failure, if achieving is lovable, then failure makes me unlovable. And I was like, that's an important realization, I guess. And just realizing that made me breathe and push through and finish the book. And so, the fact that the book has done so well, it's like, phew. But it was really helpful to realize that about myself. I think our mindset is such a blockage. We can self-sabotage, and you think, I might not be good enough. But if you are truly being creative, it doesn't actually matter if it's good enough or not. It's you being you, right?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that journey that you went on, and the vulnerability of coming to that realization about being unlovable if it fails, or if you fail, and how writing a book and putting it out into the world could be a really big public failure, and how to navigate that. And I love that quote of, it's just a breath away, success or comfort, but that fear that you speak of, it really reminds me of my own kind of understanding of creativity, where I see the foundation of creativity as safety. So feeling safe enough to take those creative risks, to put yourself out there, to quote unquote fail. And that when we don't have that sense of safety, that really can sabotage us or can get in our way of completing something like a book. So Yeah, it's, you know, you sound like you have inspiration from a lot of things in your life, but what are some of the people or places or things that are currently inspiring you today?
Beautiful, thought-provoking words inspire me. I guess,
Mm.
like I just told you, the one about the fear, excitement, breath thing. So I like to read. I've always liked to read. You know, when I was 8 years old, I wrote my first book. I can remember it was straight after my parents' divorce, and it was like, you know, I had just copied some movie I'd seen, but it was
Yeah.
my way of making sense of the world. So it was a good thing when my definition of creativity widened enough to include words, and that,
Mhm.
you know, beautiful words inspire me. I have a friend also who's very creative. Her house is messy and she's all over the place and she can't organize herself to do anything, but she can paint and she can make things, and she can make things beautiful and interesting. And she's been doing a little bit of art with me and with my very scientific computery tech husband, and that she can bring such joy out of us, that, you know, she's so encouraging. It doesn't matter what we do, but look at the world and it's beautiful. And yeah, and that sort of inspires me as well. I also know that there have been times in my life where I've literally woken up in the middle of the night, and it's just like, you know, God has whooshed down this mountain of ideas, and I have literally had this is how the book started. I have had to get up and scribble down all of these ideas. It's like this inner force, this inner passion that I just have to do it. And it honestly doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it's such a joy.
Yeah.
Really.
Do you keep journals next to your bed so that when that does happen, you can wake up and
Yeah.
I love that.
Like sometimes you wake up and reread the notes in the morning and think, you know, that wasn't such a great idea.
Well, it's good that you reread them, right? It makes you can turn it into something or set it aside for another time, maybe. But yeah, I love hearing you talk about joy and the things that spark joy and bring joy into your life. I'm curious, what, you know, have you experienced joy throughout your life, or is this kind of like a new awakening to joy that you're experiencing in writing this book and doing the other things that you're doing?
Well, that's an interesting question. I haven't thought about that. I think I think as a child, so my life was a bit messy when I was a child, but I can remember moments of joy. So I
Mm-hmm.
think, you know, we should to be creative, to find joy. We need to hang out with kids more, right? And I know that there have been times in my life where I couldn't find joy. That's kind of the definition of depression. If you've gone for a few weeks and nothing brings you joy. Um, the things that have brought me most joy in my life have been the things I've created. My two,
Mm.
I can't tell you. I didn't ever want to have kids. I thought, oh, my family's a mess, so I don't want to have a family. Right? I met this beautiful boy, and he convinced me, and yeah, we got married, and it was our wedding anniversary yesterday. But I'm so glad, because the two boys, these young men that I've created and brought into the world, and now, you know, have now started creating themselves, have given me so much joy.
Mm.
And whenever I have, you know, written a new program or a new educational resource, or I've given a great talk, or, you know, I've written the book, that that act of creating something has given me joy. And actually, it's really nice of you to remind me of that. We can forget in the
Yeah.
busy life, think, oh, I've got to do this chore, this, I've got to get through my to-do list. And we can sometimes forget to do the things that don't have a deadline or that are important, but, you know, other silly little things, you know, come first, or I'll put that off until I've got time. And you never have time. But But in order to make sure that I still keep joy in my life, I have to keep creating. Yeah.
Yeah. I love the reminders to everyone listening that to keep joy, you've got to keep creating and doing things that bring you joy and find your purpose and sharing that. Maybe it's just sharing it with yourself and reminding yourself that these things do bring me joy. And sometimes it's sharing it with others. So thank you for that. Those little reminders and sharing your bits of joy with us.
It reminds me also of a palliative care nurse. I can't remember her name, but she wrote a book about she spent all this time with people who are dying, and she wrote a list of all the their most important pieces of wisdom. And no one wishes they spent more time at work, but like the number one was that people wish they had been more true to themselves. And I think that that's the thing we're talking about. What is the unique thing that I can bring to the world? And that's the thing that gives you joy. Like, what an important thing to remember.
It is. And hearing you talk about this list, I say this often, that I believe that creativity is the balm for regret.
That's beautiful. Oh, I literally got goosebumps. I think I need a pen. I have to write that down.
Because it really is. It, at the end of life, many times people, I wish I had, learned a language or played an instrument or spent more time with people that I loved, or not held on to things or tried more things in my life. So I really feel like creativity gives us that opportunity to have fewer regrets in our life. So that's my addition to what you were sharing.
And who is a counselor, and also she's a sort of creative artist, and she's about to start a course that I'm going to join for people who have experienced grief. My sister was killed by a drunk driver when she was 21. A terrible age, right? And she was arty and I was not, right? This great big portfolio folder of all of her bits of art that we've kept from, this is decades ago, right? And I've never known what to do with them, but they're so precious. I could never get rid of them, right? And they were at my mum's house, and then she had to move out, so they ended up with me. And my friend is going to take me through this course where I will get to use those things to think about her, to work through my grief, to maybe make a collage or to do something with her work. And yeah, I'm kind of scared and excited about that possibility. I think it's a really clever marriage. It's what you're saying. I have regrets about my sister. We were not close when she died, and I can never fix that. Yeah. But I'm going to try to use creativity to be a balm for that regret.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. And what a gift to be able to use creativity and use your sister's art to transform parts of yourself and your life and your relationship. Whether someone is still on the planet or not, we can shift our relationship and how we relate to them. So I love it. I love all of this. It's so wonderful. Yeah. Now, you have said a couple of times that you weren't the arty one, other people were. And I imagine you come across other people in your life who would say, I don't have a creative bone in my body. I am not creative. How would you encourage those people to find creativity in their life?
I read about a NASA study that looked at creativity. You surely know about it. And often say, ask people, what age do you think is peak creativity? And, they don't know. Maybe 12 was the last person who answered that. It was 5 years old. Like 5 years old were at peak creativity. So my encouragement is hang out with kids. That inspired my book was teaching kids and realizing that when they're my own children, they're my babies. So I'm always a couple of their mental stages behind. They're always actually ahead of what I expect they are. But teaching kids got me to see, oh, actually they're really smart, or they're really clever, or they think really laterally, or they think deeply about big things that we sometimes forget to talk to them about, which is what my book is all about. Talk to kids, and don't talk at them or down to them, but actually come to some place of humility where you're willing to learn from them, where you're having a conversation together, trying to explore some new area together, and being open to the curiosity, the wit, the wisdom of young children, young adults as well. I did a survey with young adults that I've known almost all their lives, and asked them, you guys are caring people. I see you working for, aid organizations, being social workers, changing the world. What is it? How did your parents raise you to be people that care? And the answers just blew me away. They were so clear in their wisdom, saying things like, don't shield your kids from the world, but take them with you when you're volunteering or when you're cooking a meal for someone who's sick. Involve them in that process. Take them with you. Talk to them about your challenges and talk to them about how you've overcome them, and ask them for their advice, and all of them said, listen to your kids. It's just, so yeah, if I was encouraging other people to find their creativity, it's almost like you have to become a child again, reconnect to that joy that you had as a child.
Nice. I love that. As you were talking, it was reminding me of a study that they did around curiosity and children and adults, and how your average 5-year-old asks 120 questions a day, and your average 40-year-old asks 4. So ask more questions, and that's what kids do. So it reminded me that, yeah, great way to tap back into curiosity and creativity, ask those questions. But it sounds like you have that curiosity, you're asking questions, figuring things out. Why does something work how it works? Or how did you get to be in this space? And I'm curious, have you always been a curious person, or is this something that has kind of developed as an adult for you?
I think I've always been curious.
Mm-hmm.
I think this sounds bad, but I often with children, I will say, oh yeah, curiosity is a sign of intelligence. And so now I feel like I'm saying, oh yeah, well, I've always been curious. So, but I think it's a sign of, that willingness to learn.
Yeah.
is really important, because I'm now getting older and I'm looking at people, my parents' age, and like, why are they so self-interested? Why are they so self-absorbed? Why are they so stuck in their ways and uncompromising? Like, I don't want to be like that. How will I stop myself being like that? And I have to stay open. I have to stay curious. I have to stay interested. I have to stay humble and learning. And, again, I've come back to be like a little child,
Yeah.
The way of curiosity, the way of, of wisdom and creativity.
I love it. I love the message of to continue to be joyful as an adult and getting older. You got to engage with creativity. That's the message that I'm hearing.
I just did a TV show here in Australia, and it's old people's home for 4-year-olds. They actually took a preschool class into a nursing home, retirement home.
Yeah.
They filmed over several weeks. The interaction was just fantastic. It was amazing. The little relationships, the joy that the kids brought to these older people, they're seeing them sitting and drawing and creating together. It was wonderful. They should do that all the time.
I agree. I absolutely agree. I think that's it keeps us young to engage in the things that we did as kids or to have children around us. So thank you for that reminder. It's been such a treat to chat with you. I just have one last question. What does it feel like in your body to be creative?
Oh, interesting question. It's energizing. I often get tired and headachy. Everyone has their thing in their body that's barometer that things are not well. And it's when I might have spent a day at home by myself doing little chores or not doing the important creative stuff, but working through the to-do list, not talking to people, and I will go down and down and down, and my body takes that on. But just talking to you now, I feel like jumping up and running around. I feel energized. I feel excited. Just looking at the little baby of a book that I created, puts a smile on my face. So it comes back to that. It gives my body joy.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your joy with us. And if people want to learn more about where they can get your book or find ways to connect with you, how could they go about doing that?
I made a website for the book. It's called raisingkidswhocare.info. And you can learn more about the book. There's a couple of sample conversations that you could have a look at. The book's up on Amazon, or you can get it from Barnes and Noble or ordinary bookshops as well. And you can contact me on that website too. I'd love to chat if anything's resonated with you.
Perfect. Well, I will add all that to show notes so people have easy access. And thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. It has been such a joy.
Well, me too. Thank you. I'm going to go back and I've taken notes. You got
I love it. I love when that happens. Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We are at Sustaining Creativity. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tag your friends and family so they can listen too. We love to hear from you, so leave your reviews, comments, and questions. Check out our website, sustainingcreativity.com, for upcoming offerings and creativity coaching. Tune in Tuesdays for our next episode. And remember, with creativity, anything's possible.